One day when I was watching Nightcore remixes as part of a super serious academic study, I came across this video, and immediately I thought two things. First, this is quite a banger. And second, Japan, you've really outdone yourself this time. Only you would have ever had the absolute genius to make a girl into a railgun. A Certain Scientific Railgun is a 2009 anime based on the '07 manga by the same name. The manga was itself a spin-off of the '04 light novel, A Certain Magical Index, which itself received an anime adaptation in '08. Over the past 2 decades, Index has gained an innumerable number of spin-offs, and sequels to spin-offs, and even a PSP game for some reason. It is also widely believed to have been responsible for the school where everyone has superpowers trend, in much the same way that SAO began the fantasy isekai trend, a trend which had a fairly similar reputation to that of isekai. As for the plot of Railgun, we follow Mikoto Misaka, one of only 7 rank 5 espers in all of Academy City, the most advanced city in all the world, and her more ordinary friends, as they try to save the city from whatever threat it is currently facing, with characters from Index occasionally showing up as well. If you're wondering what these different power levels mean, let me put it in Fortnite terms for all you Zoomers out there. Satan is a wholesome 100 default with a gray pistol and 2 HP. Ueharu is the guy who can't build or shoot but carries heals and utility at least. Shirai is a sweaty soccer skid who builds a 12-story hotel with a pool whenever she gets tagged for any damage. And Misaka needs to max. But what exactly about this is based? Indeed, I'm sure that those of you who have seen this show before are screaming at me that there is one thing in this show that makes it absolute brimstone from the deepest pits of hell. If you have ever seen Railgun, you are painfully aware of the existence of Kuroko Shirai. Anywhere that a comment section is attached to this show, there's bound to be countless viewers sending their wishes that she would teleport to Canada and to seek health care. The legions of viewers who dropped this show because of her character in the second episode alone would be a serious threat to even the best 2,000-point army. In spite of this, I insist that this is in fact one of the most based parts of the show. But perhaps I'm getting ahead of myself. For those who have not seen the show, I will provide a brief description of Kuroko's character. Kuroko is a level 4 Esper, a relatively unimpressive feat in comparison to the 3rd-ranked Misaka, who she is absolutely obsessed with, in the gayest way possible. Constantly, and I do mean constantly, going to absurd and incredibly morally and legally dubious lengths in the attempt to fulfill her perverted desires. In spite of Misaka making it painfully clear that she has absolutely no interest. It often seems as if every single thing that Kuroko does is for the purpose of getting even the smallest amount of recognition from the ace of Tokyo Adai. Additionally, nothing makes her as mad as to see Misaka entertaining attention from someone else. All that is to say, Kuroko is a simp. This may not seem special to all you skibbity sigmas out there who are watching Andrew Tate in the 5th grade, but what you have to understand is that the original light novel for Index came out over a decade before the perfection of orthodox simp theory, and nearly 15 years before the Andrew Tates of the world made it known to even the most mid of betas. Of course, one could still argue that a lesbian is not particularly based, but I believe that this is to misunderstand why this character is a girl. The fact is that no one wants to watch a male simp, especially when a large portion of your audience are male simps themselves. But if you make the simp a cute anime girl, you can give your audience a healthy disdain for simp-like behavior in themselves and others without making the character completely intolerable. Of course, making a cute girl relatable to a male audience by giving her particularly male character flaws and challenges has its risks, but we can hardly blame a Japanese man in the early aughts for not foreseeing that as an issue. Not only does Railgun clearly show that simping will get you nowhere, it also provides an example of a masculine ideal. It isn't until Misaka finally encounters a guy who is stronger than even her that she has any romantic attraction to anyone. Hell, even being the only one to ever try to be a hero when she's being harassed doesn't do it. It's only when she finally realizes that he is actually at a higher level than her that she has any interest in him, after which she is arguably even more obsessed than Kuroko. This show also does a great job at displaying the difference between a girl being a tsundere, or playing hard to get for all you normies out there, and her simply having no interest in you. If Kuroko would ever realize this and move on, she would actually do quite well. In the first episode, it's revealed that even just being a level 3 is enough to get out of a sentence for bank robbery, and a level 4 makes a level 3 look as pedestrian as a Honda Civic. One of the things that the power system of this world makes incredibly obvious is those differences of power and status which the democratic systems of the world have tried so hard to obfuscate. For all the talk about how advanced Academy City is, the situation on the ground is one of borderline anarchy. I'll describe this in detail later on, but for now it's enough to say that this is a place in which one's ability to assert their will on the world, through both individual and collective action, is the only thing that matters. A world in which the only way to keep the city from falling under a reign of terror is for someone to care a whole awful lot. Thankfully for Academy City, there are people who care about keeping away the primordial darkness which seeks to destroy the delicate order of the city. This show is full of characters who embody the forms of different archetypal heroes. Satan the Level 0 shows how the simple, hobbit-like peoples of the world, through some odd chance of fate, are often essential in the destruction of otherwise unstoppable evils. On the other hand, the scientist Kiyama represents the powerful penitent, the person who has committed great sins, and now seeks to use those very powers which they had previously used to commit terrible evil to instead serve the good. The archetype which Misaka embodies is that of the aristocratic hero, the one who looks on that which they have been given and asks not, "How might I use this to help myself with no regard for what it might cost others?" but instead asks, "How might I use this to help others with no regard for what it might cost myself?" That is to say that she embodies the chivalric principle of noblesse oblige, the obligation that those of high birth have to protect those who cannot protect themselves. This isn't something that's just found in those climactic, heroic moments where she puts herself in harm's way, and quite literally uses her talents to protect the city. Instead, even in the most mundane moments, she operates in an aristocratic manner. Before anyone gets the wrong idea, I don't mean to imply that she is snobby. Indeed, the snow specifically adds a snob to show the contrast between her and Misaka. The form of aristocracy that Misaka embodies, that is, humble Western aristocracy, is the exact opposite of the prideful Oriental aristocracy of the snob. The first episode is largely about humanizing Misaka, through showing the way that she interacts with Satan and Uiharu. After a brief introduction to Misaka, Shirai, and the world, with an emphasis on the inability of Academy City to effectively deal with even petty crime in spite of how advanced it claims to be, Uiharu tells Satan that she is going to meet with the third-ranked Misaka. Satan then immediately talks about how she is absolutely certain that Misaka will see herself as too good for low-ranked espers like themselves, whereas Uiharu insists that she will be a perfectly nice person. When they finally meet, Misaka acts perfectly humble, in the exact manner described by C.S. Lewis. That is to say that she is not, quote, what most people call humble nowadays, not a sort of greasy, smarmy person, who is always telling you that, of course, he is nobody, end quote. Instead, she is someone about whom, quote, all you will think about is that she seemed a cheerful, intelligent chap who took a real interest in what you said to her, whom will not be thinking about humility, whom will not be thinking about herself at all, end quote. Her character is then further defined by her childish love of the green frog, and her heroic actions against the villain of the week. Later on, it is shown that her kindness also extends to the mentally challenged.
Oh, you're playing whack-a-mole?
Yeah, well, sort of anyway. I played that when I was younger. It's so fun. I've never seen anything like it before. Look at them popping up like that. So cute.
Yes, very cute. But you know, you might try hitting them instead of just staring.
Hit the moles? But that's cool. How should I put this? The girl is a curiosity.
Really? She seems sweet.
But this humility does not mean that she simply doesn't recognize the distinctions between people of different power levels, as you might expect in a purely democratic mindset. She absolutely does not hold those below her to the same standards that she does herself, but that does not mean that she lets them do whatever they want either. She especially holds contempt for those who use what little power they do have to harm those beneath them. This is shown most clearly in the Skill Out arc, where a bunch of spiteful level zeros gang up on random espers using an esper immobilizing machine known as Capacity Down. This enrages Misaka, though notably she had nothing but sympathy for the low-level espers who used the level upper and went mad from it, even though they were probably the larger threat. The Skill Out arc is also good at showing a more commonplace form of noblesse oblige through the main hero of the arc, the milk-drinking Giga Chad. This character is significantly less powerful than Misaka, who is able to take out the collective power of some 10,000 low-level espers with a single shot, whereas Milkman can only take out a measly dozen level odds. But Milkman still embodies the concept of noblesse oblige, seeing it as his responsibility to stop those who were once under his command from terrorizing the city. This arc also implies a sort of correlation between powerlessness and corruption, the concept of the spiteful mutant, where the only member of Skill Out to escape from this corruption is the one who is still capable and competent in spite of being a level 0. This in stark contrast to the liberal idea that power corrupts. But how is it possible for these spiteful mutants to terrorize those who are obviously their natural superiors? The answer is that they were given Capacity Down by the leader of the MAR, a shadowy private-public organization, so that the MAR could advance its own interests with no regard for how they or Skill Out might hurt others. If you see through the shiny sci-fi veneer, all that is really happening here is simply that the leaders of the society are teaming up with the dregs while everyone else suffers. An alliance of the highest and lowest classes against the common man. This sort of thing is recorded in almost every society throughout history at one point or another. Something similar is regarded as having been responsible for the rise of Caesar in Rome. And what always seems to go along with it is an arc of tyranny, a system of governance in which the state's power is aggressively used against the productive and well-intentioned, while criminals are allowed to do whatever they please. While in Railgun we're mostly shown judgment doing their jobs quite well, I have a feeling that there aren't enough teleporting 12-year-olds to effectively police the city. Indeed, it seems that the only people who are doing anything to fight crime in the city are the main cast, and Misaka is only allowed to do it because she's strong enough no one can stop her. Meanwhile, Kiyama isn't so lucky, being unable to get access to the supercomputer, effectively forcing her into using questionable methods to achieve her noble goals is textbook anarcho-tyranny. Yet, in spite of the rulers seeing the people as nothing more than literal lab rats, only useful insofar as they can be used in service of a warped eschatology, Misaka insists that Academy City is more than that. Earlier on I said that this anime was based on a manga by the same name, but that isn't entirely true. A large number of slice-of-life episodes were added to the content of the original manga. Perhaps this was just to chase trends or for filler, but I think that it adds an essential human element to the whole thing. It shows that when the wicked sit on the thrones of the world, the associated dominions are never truly theirs. Perhaps Academy City was built solely for the purpose of creating a level 6 Esper, but in these episodes we see that Academy City has become more than that. Through showing the lives of the people of Academy City, we are shown why the characters would want to fight for a city that otherwise seems irredeemable. While this undoubtedly makes for a poorly paced 24-episode series, I would imagine that in the broader story of Index, this grounding is essential. If I may indulge in once more quoting our favorite isekai enjoyer, I shall say that, quote, "If you ask why, intending to write about magicians, devils, pantomime animals, and planetary angels, I nevertheless begin with such humdrum scenes and persons, I reply that I am following the traditional fairy tale." End quote. Without seeing these characters in a commonplace environment first, we would be unable to feel the weight of the magicians and devils which our heroes will inevitably face. so that instead of obtaining from the story some transcendent image which we could take with us to understand the real world, we would instead receive only a spectacle devoid of meaning. In the first season of Railgun, we only see momentary glimpses of these magicians and devils, which is why I primarily focused on the heroes in this video, but in later seasons they take on a much larger role in the story. Make sure to subscribe and enable notifications so that you don't miss the video I will inevitably make on Railgun S after I watch it. Even if you still think Railgun is cringe, still make sure to subscribe because I will eventually make videos on other things like Elden Ring as well. Thanks for watching.